Hello everybody, welcome back. This is the second part of the November monthly review video. The first video was weeks 1 and 2, which were much quieter, but things picked up in week 3 and 4. So this is the second part of that review with much more action going on at the bird table and with the fox and the rabbit, and even still getting the hedgehog making occasional visits to the wood as well. The 15th began with a brief rabbit visit. The hedgehog was back in the wood in the early hours of the 16th. I'm still surprised that it isn't hibernating already. I tried something a bit different that afternoon. Rather than rely on the Trailcam, I wondered what birds would visit if I was there in the wood with a camera. So these few pictures are from my DSLR. That evening, the hedgehog was back again. I'm guessing this is part of a last effort to build up fat reserves for the winter. Just before 8 AM on the 17th, the rabbit was sniffing around the tree. It was probably on the way to the lawn, where it often sits and eats grass and dandelions. While the video is in full HD, it's a little bit soft, being a crop and right on the edge of the field of view. The rabbit was back half an hour later. Cropped again, this video is still a little bit soft in detail. The nighttime and starlight captures have a maximum resolution of full HD, but daylight captures can go higher. So by the 23rd, I'd changed the daytime video settings to 2K resolution. Just after 10 that evening, the hedgehog was passing by the pond. On the 18th, I put the two small action cameras out. Camparktrailcam 2 has motion sensing and has a fairly good lens. That was overlooking the bird table. The one marked Camparktrailcam 3 was set up by the pond. This is more of a child's toy camera, and while it records full HD video, the lens is tiny and set into the camera body to reduce the chance of a child damaging it. This means that in lower light conditions, the video quality gets a little bit grainy. This camera also doesn't have movement detection, so I just have to set it recording, and it takes around about 3 hours to fill the memory card. I then have to scan through the video to find anything interesting that happens. While this is a bit of a pain, it catches the birds that jump in and out of shot quickly. It would be too fast for the other camera. Once again, the robin was quite aggressive, chasing other birds away from the pond and food. Just because it gets featured on Christmas cards, he thinks he rules the wood. There's a number of examples of this behaviour throughout this video. Both cameras captured a range of visiting birds. To make sure some came down to the pond, I put a few piles of seed amongst the stones surrounding the pond. The next clip is another bullying robin, having a go at a great tit. The great tit avoided it in a move that looks like it comes from an action movie, especially when seen at reduced speed. Just before 8 p.m. that evening, the fox turned up by the pond and started licking up birdseed. I'm guessing finding food is hard right now. The fox hung around for a few minutes, searching the woodland floor for anything to eat. The fox was back again at 9:30 for another quick look around, before heading out to the bottom of the wood. It was raining as the fox left, but it got colder as the night went on. Overnight, between the 18th and the 19th, it began to snow, laying about an inch thick across the garden. The trees and remaining leaves sheltered the woodland to some degree, so there was only a light scattering of snow on the ground. The first snowy capture of the 19th was the pigeon sitting on the empty bird table, expecting me to come out and feed it. The great tit was on a branch by the pond. About an hour and a quarter later, the pigeon was back at the pond for a drink, while a dunnock was eating from a pile of seed on the rock at the far side of the pond. The robin was also hopping around the ground close by. The camera shut off for the day at 9 o'clock. Turning back on late afternoon, caught a robin again by the pond. Nothing else appeared until after midnight. "40 minutes into the 20th, the fox came and had some of the food that I'd put out. I don't put food out often, but took pity on it having seen it licking up birdseed. The fox hung around for about 5 minutes, eating from a couple of pounds of food, before going back to the birdseed by the pond again. The rest of the night was quiet, with no other visitors. Perhaps all the animals were hiding from the cold. The next capture was a rabbit in the pre-dawn light, as shown by the camera being in starlight mode. In low light conditions that haven't reached full darkness, the camera amplifies what little light there is to give a colour image. There were quite a few birds around too, searching the snow for any remaining seeds. The robin was back again, chasing other birds away. Another 10 minutes later, and the pigeon was back on the bird table, wanting to be fed. The smaller birds were still searching on the ground for seed. The camera turned off again at 9 AM and didn't catch anything else until 10 PM that evening, when the fox was back. He'd missed some food from the night before, and found some of it during this visit. The fox was the only visitor that evening. The next morning, the pigeon was back on the table again wanting food, but it's just a seed vacuum, capable of clearing the table on its own in just a few minutes. Nearby, down at the pond, a blackbird was taking a drink, while several other small birds were searching the ground around the pond area. A few minutes later, the pigeon was back on the table, while 3 ring-necked doves came through the wood, one stopping for a drink. Around 13 hours after that, the fox was back, checking for any more food still around. Other than perhaps a few scraps, there was nothing worth staying for, and the fox moved on down the wood, being the last capture of week 3. Thanks for watching. Do consider liking and subscribing. And if you like short form videos, check out Pinetree Wood Shorts. If you're happy with the long form, stick with Pinetree Wood Trailcam. See you next time.